Well, welcome to the Vagg house. Joseph and Nellie Vagg moved here in 1909 when Joe bought the property, including the original brick blacksmith shop, which stood at the south edge of the driveway next to the house here. Joe and Nellie Vagg had a son, Norris, and a daughter, Melva. The original part of the house, we think, was built probably maybe even in the late 1820s, because there are floor joists made of logs. This part of the house that we're in, which serves as the kitchen wing, I tend to think might have been added to the house in the 1870s. We believe that the Vaggs remodeled the house in 1929. The last owner of the house was Rene Shazel. He purchased the house with William Nessel in 1985 from Melva Vagg Warner. And Rene liked the house because he felt it was untouched. Because it hadn't been muddled up. When Melva had the house up for sale, a neighbor came and looked at it and made some comment about, well, this kitchen would have to be remodeled. And Melva took great offense at it and said, young man, this kitchen was remodeled in 1929 and there's nothing wrong with it today. Rene stipulated when he bought the house that he wanted the Vagg's kitchen range left in place and their gas stove. So those two stoves did actually belong to the Vaggs, along with the Mangle ironing machine. Now I should mention Rene was a collector of antiques and he especially liked things from the teens, 20s, and 30s. The stove was cast, it's a Kalamazoo. It was cast in 1935, and the date does appear here. It says 35, and Rene took a great pride in finding old catalogs and material that related to electrical things, and this is the stove manual that would have come with a brand new stove like this in 1935, and the picture here is, of course, is the actual stove. This is a wood-burning stove or a coal-burning stove. There are warming ovens up above, and the stove works. This lifts up, and so you could put in a log or do grilling on it. This way you could add a log into the firebox or shovel in coal. And there is a ash pan down here. On this side of the stove, they originally had a what was called a reservoir. Unfortunately, the reservoir tank has disappeared. The reason the Vaggs had two stoves, the wood-burning range kept the wing of the house warm in the wintertime, and of course they could be cooking on it. In the summertime, when it was too hot to use the wood-burning range, that's why they had a gas stove. Rene had a huge collection of electrical appliances. This is one of the refrigerators that was retained from his collection, a monitor top. And we can see that there is a small freezer here. One of the unique items that Rene had collected was this electrical coil, which could be placed into the freezer to help melt the ice, because refrigerators of this sort had to be defrosted every month or so. This it works. It's a good working refrigerator. It's just a matter of turning the dials here and it will cool down. One of the other outstanding electrical things is this Hamilton Beach a food mixer that was Renee's. Really nice example. And again, he had the a manual that came with the food mixer. Sort of an unusual color as far as the bowls are concerned. A 1930s hot plate, and with a hot plate like this, why, you could plug it in over at the wall. And a curious little thing to plug into was this dog, but this is the receptacle for plugging into. You can plug in 3 or 4 things into the little dog. An easy washing machine. Unlike washing machines of this type that usually have a wringer, this washing machine has a spinner for drying the clothes. So once the clothes were washed, you took them out of the tank and put them in the spinner to spin out the water. Early toaster. There were many toasters in Renee's collection, and this one and another early one were saved aside for the museum. We have a couple of egg steamers here. This grill would be great for making a grilled cheese sandwich. We have here a picture of Joe and Nellie Vagg. This was taken in 1948 on the occasion of their 45th wedding anniversary. Along with electrical items, this unusual early side light that has an outlet on the side of the socket. In early electrical installation, outlets were few and far between. Outside in front there is a carriage step to embark and disembark a carriage, and the one out in front of the house was copied after this picture. Let's go into the dining room in a minute. A couple of other things though that are unusual electrical items. This one is for ironing a tie. This item is for putting creases in your pants. And an early example of a cordless flat iron. It's the trivet that heats up, and so when you were ironing you didn't have to have the cord get in the way. Another early iron is this one, and the porcelain plug on it shows that the prongs are sideways rather than vertical. Eventually things were standardized. This was meant to screw into an electric light socket, and this would take vertical or horizontal plugs. But we'll go in the dining room next. I think one of the things that is interesting to point out in the dining room relates to Nellie Vagg. Nellie was a strong proponent of the temperance movement. And even after temperance was done away with, Nellie continued to wear the white ribbon, which was the symbol of the WCTU. Now over on this wall, we have a banner that says Gaines WCTU, which I suspect was probably something made in maybe the late 19th century, early 20th century. But on the buffet here, we have a bust of Frances E. Willard. She was a leading figure in the Women's Christian Temperance Union, and we notice that she is wearing here a white ribbon. Now, Frances E. Willard was born in Churchville, New York. There is also a commemorative nice china plate here that shows Frances Willard's home in Illinois, and the other vignettes around the edge of the plate are representations of other noteworthy people in the temperance movement. And we see the world or globe here with a white ribbon tied around it. This plate was published in 1912 by a Methodist group. Of course, Methodists were strong into temperance. Back to some electrical things. This Royal Rochester waffle iron, which has several companion pieces, would have been used in this manner by putting the plug into this adapter into the socket. This is something that we wouldn't consider to be very attractive, but that's how they made these electrical things work at the time. A vacuum cleaner from 1920. And over here an electric heater that could be plugged in. If it was just a little chilly, you could plug in an electric heater. And some things haven't changed. We use icons to advertise products today. You don't get any more 20s in appearance than this. Is Pola Negri, who was a famous actress, first starred in silent films. Coming into the living room, the wallpaper on the walls in the living room was put up in 1948 when the Vaggs celebrated their 45th wedding anniversary, having been married in 1903. Everything in this room is original. The upholstery on the furniture, the sofa and matching chair would have been created in the mid-1920s, along with the player piano. Player pianos were very popular in the 1920s. We hope to get this one in working order shortly. Above the piano is a hooked wall hanging done by a local person, vintage mid-20s, and we have a fan that looks very familiar. This sort of motif was popular at that period of time. We see certain characteristics and illustrations that pop up in this period. The shield lampshades on the lamp over here in the corner represent the same kind of scene that was so popular then. There are several children's items in the room. A miniature Victrola made especially for children. This again would have been in the 20s when this was made. A child's wicker rocker, and the little girl's shoes here maybe don't look that old, but they really are, because the strap is fastened by a button, so a button hook would have been needed to hold the shoes on to the child. The sectional bookcase, sometimes referred to as a barrister bookcase, furniture like that was popular in the 20s. It's sort of the same style as the piano. The fringed lampshades are all original fabric on these lights from probably around 1920. Over in this corner, we have another typical thing from the 20s, the plaster plaque with the parrot. Parrots seem to be a popular illustration in that period of time. And a radio from the 1920s, including a radio lamp, which was often seen on radios. Radio lamps, often referred to as radio lamps. We have here a Morris chair, probably dating 1915, 1917 period, again with original upholstery. And in the corner, an illustration of Gainsborough's famous painting, The Blue Boy. People had prints of famous paintings hanging in their homes because it gave them a sense of culture. It showed that they were well educated. Here we have another popular print from the period, Whistler's Mother, or an illustration known as Arrangement in Gray and Black. This has a poem about mother, which somebody might well have hung near maybe a picture of a mother who might be deceased. It's a sentimental kind of poem. So I guess for the most part we're pretty well through with our tour here.